Warm greetings. I extend my warmest welcome to the talk show Education 4.0 for Safe, Sustainable Societies.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the talk show organized by Samurja Educational Society on the theme Education 4.0 for Safe, Sustainable Societies. We appreciate and applaud our panelists and participants for the zeal to share and passion to learn with Samurja. What Samurja does. Here is a small video about it. Samurja, the sum of creative energies.
Samurja Educational Society, established in the year 1991, has completed its gratifying journey of 3 decades. The society was conceptualized with the objective of educating children and preparing them to be morally upright and vocationally independent. Ever since its inception, the society has continued to take tiny steps forward, redesigning the educational fabric in all possible ways through various educational activities, besides conducting social outreach programs like the Girl Next Door and the Charity War. Samurja is constantly striving to bring together some of the most ignited minds in the field of education to introduce change in the educational fabric of the nation by providing educational vision, empowering educators, inspiring learners, and elevating various organizations through training sessions, panel discussions, talk shows, conferences, and symposiums. The society has also conceptualized and published periodicals and magazines for students and teachers. Samurja continues to explore new domains, trends, and landscapes to enrich the educators across the country by equipping them to resolve the academic challenges in their classroom to make teaching and learning more joyous and engaging. It also helps educators realize their vision and collaborate with national and international educators to have sustainable societies and a happy nation, thus redefining the paradigms of Indian education. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
John F. Kennedy, 35th President of United States, once said, "Leadership and learning are indispensable for each other." Learning is not a one-time event or a periodic luxury. Liberal educators in progressive organizations recognize that the ability to constantly learn, innovate, and reflect is vital to their success. I was reading a blog written by Eric Schillinger. In his blog, he mentioned what it means to be a learner, to lead learning. In fact, as an educator, it is not only our responsibility to learn continuously, but also it is mandatory requirement to push our boundaries, to expand our knowledge and skills. While reading this blog, I reaffirmed my belief that it is important for every teacher to lead learning and demonstrate it rightly to the students. It is indispensable for every school leader to lead learning and share meaningful professional learning to the teachers. I would like to share a couple of more points from the collective consciousness from different educators, leaders, and reformers. We need to teach, observe, and assess less and connect more to establish relationship with students, colleagues, seniors, and juniors. We invest a lot of time in asking questions. Can we allow our students and teachers to be curious and let them ask questions, rather prepare them to ask right questions at the right time in the right situations? Every organization has a vision. It is expected that every teacher should know the vision of the organization. It should not be only a statement hanging or posted at the reception of the school, but can we also spend some time in knowing the philosophy of the teachers of engaging students and encouraging the positive school culture? As a teacher and as a school leader, many a times we love to share our stories and incidences which brought positive results. But can we also spare time in listening to the stories of students and teachers as well? Can I ask my students how they want their learning to be assessed? Can I learn the ways teachers and students appreciate to receive feedback? Can I co-present a class with my colleague and or a student? Can I plan the teacher exchange program and exchange of resources with the neighborhood schools? Leading learning begins by leading with examples, and there are n number of ways. To know more about it, how to lead learning, we have our expert who is a hardcore academician, a passionate educator, a dynamic leader who has proved himself with an absolute commitment and dedication as a school leader. Mr. Sanjay Yadav, Principal, Alcon International School. Sir, kindly extend the verbal greeting. We welcome you on this forum.
Very good evening and namaskar to everyone. And I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you, Mukta ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to learn with all the great educators here.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to share my sincere gratitude and great appreciation for Sanjay sir. Today, sir is invited to UNESCO office for an event, the State of Education Report for India, where Alcon International School will be showcased. However, sir preferred to join this platform to keep his promise. Sir, Samurja will always be indebted to you for this. You have already started your session, at least for me, before formally initiating it. May I request Monica ma'am to please welcome and introduce sir with a musical note.
Overall, the purpose of education is to prepare them for life. So life skill education is very important. Health education is important. When I talk to children, I tell them that come what may, whatever position you may have, whatever commercial or professional satisfaction you may derive, but at the back of it, if you are not healthy, all that pleasure simply goes for a toss.
We also have with us our mentor, Dr. Rajesh Hasija, Director in the Prastha Group of School, a leader par excellence, our mentor, and the trailblazer of this talk show. We welcome you, sir, Dr. Rajesh Sasija.
Thank you, Dr. Mukta. Grateful to you for every week bringing us lot many resources to upgrade ourselves and know more about education. Kudos to you and your team.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Another mentor of ours, Dr. Ashok Pandey, who is not with us, already engaged with an assignment. He's already there with UNESCO office. We welcome our mentor, Dr. Ashok Pandey also. Once again, we welcome all the participants. Without further delay, I'll request Sanjay Yadav, sir, to please share your wisdom how to lead the learning. You are in a short span of time at Alcon International School. You have actually created waves. Without further delay, I would request you to please share your philosophy, your wisdom with us. Over to Sanjay, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mukta. I'm so overwhelmed that I have this wonderful opportunity. I can see a lot of colleagues of mine who are already there, and of course, many people I will get to know today. This is the power of the virtual platform. This is how we are able to reach out to many people and connect with many people. And Samurja has been doing this over a long period of time. Your engagement, I'm aware the sessions which are conducted and all my team members who have been regularly attending, they have been sharing the sum of all that urja which they gain from your sessions. And being a physics person, who can be more excited than looking at the energy distribution which you are doing, and it goes in all the directions. So first of all, let me wish you that yes, let this journey continue in multi-dimension as it is expected, and let it touch the lives of educators, which in turn will touch the lives of our children. And just as our children, they are the learners, we are also lifelong learners. So this is something which I can here share it with my team members also, the kind of learning culture which they reflect, the way they take things. This is amazing. And of course, today I want to quickly ask one question. How many of those who have joined us, if you consider that you are a leader, you can probably write a simple Y in the chat box. If you consider that you are a leader, just write a Y. So let's see how many leaders are there with us.
Many.
My goodness. So I'm the only learner in this classroom and they are all the leaders. They are all leaders as well as learners, of course, because when we define leadership, this will unfold and we'll be able to correlate with it. So we are learners too, absolutely, very right. Then only you can be a leader. I take a note from one of the lines which Mukta ma'am, you said right in the beginning. So I'm very fond of using this phrase, and I say that simplest things, and this is something which I derive while learning from the great scientists, practicing scientists in ISRO. They used to say, simplest things are always most difficult to retain or to exhibit or to do. So if we are able to bring it, and then the great scientist, one of the greatest scientists, Albert Einstein, he himself said, and I keep repeating, my team members will say, why sir keeps talking about it again and again, because I derive so much of inspiration from these thoughts and statements. So his very simple, I would say, thought which he has shared with all the educators in the world. And he says that if you can explain something in a simple manner, which could go to the extent of making even a layman understand the basics. You can't simplify things beyond a limit, of course, the complex nature will remain, but then how do you present it? And if you can do that, then only it will reflect that you have understood the matter on your own. If you are not able to simplify, it means somewhere there are problems in your own understanding also. So this is how we all perceive. And I'm sure that this journey, every educator who has been a leader in their classroom, in their life, in their family, in their society, in their community, everywhere, in different situations. And when it comes to my personal experience in terms of leadership, I always say that yes, there are going to be situations where it will demand you to lead from the front. Don't hesitate in taking that lead where it is desirable. where people are looking up to you and where they expect that, yes, the bucks have to stop somewhere, or there should be somebody who is able to take the onus. Whether it is going to be, and that is again a great learning which happened from one of my mentors, who was the greatest scientist India has had, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So he has exhibited that when there was a project failure, he said that, yes, I take the onus of it. And when there was a success in the project, he dedicated it to the entire team. This is the great leadership we come from. This is what we have learned. So these are few things. And of course, I'll seek your permission to allow me to share my screen, and we will keep interacting. At the same time, we will keep looking at certain great thoughts. And in between, I think, going to share a short story or a case also, which will bring us to our day-to-day life practices which are there. So coming to the screen sharing, let me just start. So the screen is visible, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
All right. So here, as I have expressed my simple expectation is that, yes, I am your co-learner and I would love to learn something from your experience. That's and something which we'll all share together. And of course, I thank Samurja for providing this platform. As the title goes, leading learning. So every day, every moment, we need to find opportunities where we can reinvent ourselves. And in the process of reinventing ourselves, so we actually get the opportunity to empower our school community and of course the community at large, which is the society. So this is the thought. Now, as we all begin our journey, every little journey with a prayer. So I too have thought of sharing a prayer with everyone. And as I was talking to Mukta ma'am, I said that this is my new life, which is because I'm indebted to all my well-wishers who prayed so hard for me. And each day in my life when it has become a bonus. So I must pay my gratitude and I must thank everyone who has made it possible for me and make purposeful living for each living day for myself. So in this now, I wanted you just to make your own notes, but this is a prayer which again I have shared with some people and some, I'm sure everybody has heard this prayer and it is very fun, but you just need to jot down the lessons for leaders in this prayer. So let me play and let me know if you are able to hear the sound audio is there or not. I'm just playing and I'll pause a minute to know if the audio is there. Can you hear the audio? If I can get a yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. So I'll just play that.
हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे। हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे। हमको मन की शक्ति देना, भेद भाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहे, सच कदम भरे, दूसरों के जैसे पहले खुद को जय करे। हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पर इतना कर्म कर, साथ दे तो धर्म का, चले तो धर्म पर, खुद पे हो शक्ति देना।
So I'm sure that there were a lot of things which you have been able to jot down, or this is why I was playing a fast forward version of the player with the lyrics visible on the screen, where you could see that how many lessons we can learn from this single prayer. And we are belonging to a great country where there are so many such wonderful prayers and songs which are always there day in and day out to motivate us. And my inspiration also came when I heard it so intently for the first time. I started writing down second time when I heard that, okay, there are so many things which I can learn from this beautiful prayer. And this will be the guiding light for everybody who is there to lead or support somebody or the other. So let's try to now understand the meaning of the term leadership as perceived by certain great leaders. And of course, we'll discuss a few more things. So I share the thought of the day. A child would say that, give it to me, in a materialistic or worldly way. So if somebody is all the time asking, give me, the person is childish. This is how I interpret it. While a teenager would say, you don't worry, I'll do it, because they are full of confidence. They feel that the world is at their feet and they can do anything. They don't need any support. They are empowered, be it physically or they are mentally very strong. Even if not, they still feel that they are capable and don't interfere in their life. So that is where a teenager behaves. A grown-up would say, why don't we work together? Because they realize that humanly, it is not possible for anybody to do everything on their own. So they start understanding the need of collaboration. They start understanding the necessity of living and working together. But the moment you start telling people, what can I give? That is where you start realizing that you are displaying the leadership characteristic. This is what a leader will say. And since it comes from Rumi, yet another great philosopher in the world who has wonderful teachings, we must keep reading about what he writes, and we get to learn from every thought which he has shared. So I'm here with this thought, which is I felt is apt for leadership. Of course, for your own little bit of exercise, so you can try writing a word or two as your first reaction to the term leadership or a leader. Let this be there on the chat box. You can write what is your first reaction, and first reaction is always the true reaction. So whatever you feel is your first reaction to the term leader or leadership. Since I'm sharing the screen, so I'll probably get to read it afterwards, or let me see if I can read it also simultaneously. It may not be possible. I'll get back to it and I'll read your reactions on the chat. So please keep writing what is your first reaction to the word, to the term leadership or a leader. In the meantime,
shall I read the remarks, sir? Shall I read?
Yeah, you can just read some of them, please. That would be great.
Guiding light, motivator, patience, guidance, patience, torchbearer, compassionate, and not being biased.
Okay, wonderful.
Confident.
Because this is when I said I am your co-learner. So these are the lessons which we have to learn from the reactions which are coming from you. We have our own way of extracting what best you can give it to us. So this is how our class is progressing and we are discussing. Excellent. Thank you so much for your reactions. So in the words of our former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, dreams are not what you see when you sleep. True dreams are those which don't let you sleep. When you see that dream once, it's just a dream. When you see it twice, it becomes a desire. When you see it for the third time, it becomes a goal, aim, or passion. So, dear leaders, dare to dream and see that dream thrice or more. Because when I said you see it for the third time, it becomes your goal, it becomes your aim, it becomes your passion. And if you are seeing it more than thrice, you can imagine you are living in and out of that dream. And that dream will definitely materialize. So this is, in the words of our great leader, 2 points. Again, what he has shared about leadership has put it in 6 columns. And this is something which I'm sure that if I derive from whatever remarks have come in the chat box, they are somewhere or the other related to these 6 traits of leaders. So first, a leader must have vision. Without vision, you cannot be a leader. Even if you have a personal vision, then also you are your own leader. And then you have a professional vision, and then you bring them in sync. And then you start sharing it with people. So the vision is a journey. You have a thought, and then you are moving towards that vision. How will you be able to move? That becomes the shared vision. I'll be talking about that little later in detail. But first and foremost, we must have the vision, and we must create a vision for ourselves. The leader must be able to travel an unexplored path. Normal tendency of people is to travel along well laid out ways. So somebody has to take that risk. Somebody has to be daring to take that path which nobody has explored. And then only there will be innovation. Then only there will be invention. Then only there will be new avenues which will open up and which will facilitate everyone. So don't hesitate in traveling along that unexplored path if and whenever the situation demands. The leader must know how to manage success. That's perfectly fine. But more than that, it is important how to manage failure. And we must also teach our children that how are they able to deal with the setback? How are they able to deal with failure? This is more important than simply enjoying the success. The fourth trait that a leader should have is the courage to make decisions. There are people who look up to leaders, who depend on leaders, and who wait for them to take the decision. And at that point of time, if you are indecisive or you are spending more than the expected time in taking the decision, it may have its implications somewhere or the other. Yes, the decisions will require deliberations. It should not be impulsive, but at the same time, don't procrastinate beyond the limit. And you have to take the decision, come forward and take the desired decision. The leaders should have the nobility in management, as somebody was mentioning, that we should be fair, we should be transparent, the leaders should be, in fact, to some extent, people should be able to read them inside out. That yes, if this is the situation, this is what is going to be the expectation, or this is what is going to be the reaction of my leader. And that is what is desirable, that should be there, practiced day in and day out. And finally, the leader should work with integrity and succeed with integrity. So you can see one of the traits which has been talked about, which has been emphasized, is integrity. So we need to live, we need to practice, we need to exhibit as much as possible. These are 6 wonderful traits which have been shared by our great leader, and I had the opportunity to share it with you, and I'm sure that most of you will agree with that. What a beautiful picture. When I saw it, I was simply in awe and in love with this picture, and I tried correlating and bringing certain elements which are discussed so beautifully here. So when we talk about a leader, there has to be a vision which is related to Akash. Akash is infinite, you can say, and the vision is also the broad vision. The vision is related to foresightedness. It is able to allow you to see beyond the picture. So there's no limit. Sky is the limit. Then at the same time, you are on the ground. Even if you are looking up at the sky, you're looking at Akash, you are grounded on Prithvi. You are connected to the ground. That's so very important. When it was River Day, and when there were a lot of messages which were being shared about water, the most important characteristic that when we start as science teachers, we teach our children what are the characteristics of a fluid or a liquid, and then automatically we say that yes, they may have their own size, but they don't have any shape, and they are flexible. They can be converted into any shape. They're transparent when we talk about water, and it is the lifeline. So what are the traits or the human characteristics which are correlated with this is the relationships. How do we relate to any and everybody? Human policies, it's humane policies, let's emphasize on the word, for the people, and how flexible can we be. This is what is Jal. Then we talk about Vayu, the wings or winds of change. It could even turn into a storm. It could be a culture of positivity, yet it has the power to destroy also. Each one of them has all the powers in it, infinite powers in it. So what should be taken from where? So when we talk about Vayu, which is there to spread the positivity and which is carrying forward the culture of positivity, this is the essence of Vayu in a leadership role. And then when we look at Agni, it is talking about igniting that passion. It is talking about that fire in the belly. The moment that fire in the belly dies down, there will be no progression further. So these are 5 lessons which are there. Again, each one has been shown. So of course, I've already discussed about them and we must learn from them. Now coming to when we look at the role of school leadership in particular. So this was in general, I was talking about leadership, but bringing it to the context of school leadership, when we connect with children, we need to think about a question. And I'm requesting you again to answer. Let's look at it, that which role takes up, this could have been a quiz, but at the moment I'm just asking it as a question. Which role takes up most of the time of a school leader? All these are roles of a school leader. But according to you, which role could be taking up most of the time of a school leader? So once again, I'll just expect that whichever answer appears prominently common, somebody could read that out to me and then I will take it forward from there. So either it is an administrator or an academician or a manager or a communicator or a visionary.
Aparna Krishnamurthy is writing visionary, then communicator, again visionary, academician, visionary.
Let me again, ma'am, read out the question once again and interpret it correctly. I'm not talking about what should be the ideal role of a school leader. My question is framed at which role takes up most of the time of a school leader. So just give it a thought and then write.
Yeah.
So which answer seems to be more probable?
Communicator, sir. Communicator.
All right. So of course, each role, and if we start looking at it, there are multiple roles. I have been able to jot down only few here. And you in your classroom as a leader, you are also exhibiting all those qualities. You are an administrator, you are managing your class. And how much time you spend in managing your class, or you are communicating and you are taking lead in terms of making your children learn. So administrator's role is there. That
yes,
is the
next probable answers, many are responding as administrator now, sir. Many
right.
have responded.
Because when I emphasized on the word time, this is what was my expectation. You know, as a teacher, when you have to ask the question, you can get your desired answer also. So sometimes we frame our question in a manner that we get the desired answer. It's a general perception. If I was asked this question, I would say yes, most of the time the leaders, school leaders, they are busy doing a lot of administrative responsibilities. At the same time, some of the school leaders start using it as an excuse. I'm sorry to use the term, but yes, this is the experience. They say that, okay, when it comes to my role as a pedagogical leader, my role and responsibility to look after the learning, you express your helplessness that I have got so many administrative responsibilities. I don't have the time for this and I'm not able to connect or I'm not able to do justice to this. So this is what is going to further unfold when we look at a pedagogical leader. Academician in your classroom, as I was saying, that each role, each teacher inside their classroom plays. You are a manager, you are a communicator, and of course you have a vision for your children. You have a vision for your subject learning. You plan further that how should your children be able to take the learning forward. So these are there, but you are not wrong in writing, because the general observation and general perception remains that a school leader might be most of the time engaged in administrative responsibilities, which of course is, I must say, that not the prime responsibility of a pedagogical leader, though it cannot be ruled out, but at the same time, the primary responsibility, how it comes, we'll look into that. So when we talk about pedagogical leadership, pedagogy is the science and art of teaching learning process. And the second word, which is leadership, is an act of leading or guiding individuals or groups. So if I go by the literal meaning, it is pedagogical leadership, which leads to guiding the study of the teaching and learning process. You are in a position that how should teaching learning process move forward? How should it facilitate the learners and subsequently make you also a learner? That is what will happen. And then what kind of decisions will be taken, how it will be done, that is the journey, that is what we enjoy. As far as the interpretation from CBSE is concerned, of course, this is what has been jotted down, but the list is not inclusive. It is only that some points which have been mentioned, that a pedagogical leader in a school is expected to undertake the following. So lead, guide, and support the teaching learning process, or direct the entire focus of all school activities towards students' learning, prepare annual pedagogical plan of the school, promote innovative pedagogy, ensure joyful learning at all levels through use of innovative pedagogy, develop school-specific resources for teaching and learning, ensure proper in-house training of the teacher, which is the continuous professional development, to equip them further, to empower them further, to be up to date with new ideas and tools, and to make effort to learn the best practices from other schools. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Of course, there are a lot more responsibilities, which I'm sure each one of you can add to the list from your side also, and that will be for everyone to learn. So please feel free. If you feel that apart from what has been listed there, if there's something else which you wish to add, go ahead and add in that. So when we look at the pedagogy, as literal meaning, I have already mentioned it. How it manifests in a school, of course, the teaching is at the core of art, and then teaching will be able to bring in the desired learning in the children when the learning environment is supportive, it is conducive, it's very, very important. And then it is very important also to do the reflections. Now, those reflections could be self-assessment, those reflections could be in the form of peer assessment, those assessments could be giving us a reflection as a third-party measure also. So when there is an external examination which is being conducted, it is a part of learning and pedagogical growth for the children. We have to include, because until and unless that reflection is available, the system does not progress. As a teacher, I was sharing with my team, I said that when I used to teach my children, especially after they would give their final examination in class 12 and pass out, I used to ask them, all right, now that you are out of the school, somewhere in any corner of your mind, if at all you have any fear that, okay, had I given this feedback to sir, this might have had its implication anywhere else, now that you are out of it. The only thing what I expect from you is give me an honest feedback that how did you enjoy your journey in learning with me, and what is something which I can add in it to make it more interesting and make it a better journey for my children in future. And I used to even joke and tell them that tomorrow, you never know, after 20 years down the line, I might be teaching your son or your daughter. And when they come into my classroom, do you want me to teach in the same manner, or what changes would you expect in my teaching? So suggest it to me. And that is what empowers us. That is what excites us. That is what makes it a better learning for all of us. So this is how one should be open to reflections. One should be open to analyzing it. That is what is assessment. And it's not only for the children, but it is for us also as educators. We should be able to assess what we are doing. And then the school systems, because obviously it's very essential to have things in a systematic manner, which is making the atmosphere learning, which is helping everyone, which is dependent on the system, that yes, at least if I'm talking about a hybrid mode of school, I shouldn't be running from pillar to post to look after the technological support or other things. I shouldn't be taking care of certain things, but my focus at that point of time is something else. So I should not get defocused from that. And this is how the pedagogy evolves. Assessment, I've talked about learning environment and systems. So now when we look at the significance of school leadership for student learning, this was a study which was done, and the first question which was asked, that how much role does a school leadership directly contribute in terms of students learning? And that is considered to be the second most important factor, not the first most important factor. You can see the second line, which talks about the teacher quality constitutes 40% of the total effect, the most important factor for students' learning. And after that, the second most important factor is the role played by the leadership. And then, of course, district or state or national level leadership have a significant role in leading schools for students' learning, because they are the ones who will look into the policy matters and who will give direction. Again, they are visionaries, and they look at the bigger picture and they see that how the education should shape up. And today we have seen, we are all excited. We are going through the NEP, which has been given to us, and that is what has come to us from leadership at different level, practicing leaders to national level leadership. And this is what is going to give direction to the nation as a whole. So this is how leadership moves. In some cases, when I was talking about direct effects, so school leadership influences students' learning because one-on-one interactions are also there. It may not be one-on-one, but a leader is able to communicate to a larger group of students. That is what happens. The access is there. And the indirect effect is that the leadership invests in teacher development, and teacher development eventually affects student learning. So if the leadership does not invest in teacher development, I'm sure you can understand that there will be some segment of student learning which will get affected. So this is your mediated or indirect effect of school leadership. And then there is, as we talk about, reciprocational effect. So leadership is preparing teachers and students, but at the same time, there is reverse learning. A lot of learning comes, and that is what gives direction to school leadership. So this is what will be seen either as a reciprocational or inverse effect. Either it is through teachers, you get the feedback that this is what children expect and this is how the system should function. Or sometimes the atmosphere, it is so conducive that you get direct feedback from students. If not, we have to put in effort to get that feedback, because that is what will be able to take school leadership and the direction of school forward for learning. I'll only look at the 4 major roles which have been identified, which are core functions of a school leadership. So one, it is of influence, where you are able to influence because by virtue of position, you can say by virtue of your outreach, but you come across a large number of people from all walks of society. It's not just the students, not the teachers, but even the community. So you have the opportunity to influence others, which again, when I'm saying it to all my teachers, that everybody who is in the position of leadership within your sphere of influence, you are able to influence others largely. Then there are times where one is expected to direct others also. So that guidance, direction does not mean dictating terms, but the direction is to set goals, to solve the problem, to allow them to solve the problems on their own, and giving them the space, giving them the direction, at the same time the space that they can connect with other leadership and work on that. So set the path. And then once these are achieved, then you are also playing the role of empowering others. Keep finding opportunities where we can empower one or all in whichever way. And then the collaboration, because as it was mentioned earlier, also I mentioned it in the beginning, that a matured person will say that I cannot do everything together. So I understand the power of teamwork. I understand the essence of working with others, and then only will be able to make the desired difference. And of course, these leadership roles have also been given different captions. So it could be a responsive leadership, where we are talking about collaboration, where we are talking about be it resource management or providing service to stakeholders or providing all the facilities. There is a responsible leadership, so where you have to take responsibility of actions and decisions made. I said that yes, somewhere the team should have that comfort that we are there to take the decision, and there is somebody who is there to share the responsibility. So we feel protected, we feel empowered, we feel guided, and we are in a safe zone, because ultimately the leader is there to take the responsibility. It has to be exhibited by the leader repeatedly. It is important to have networking leadership, which is the collaboration. Sometimes leaders perceive that yes, too much of time is going to be spent in meeting people or interacting with people or looking into what have they brought for us. But that is how the system will grow. So you cannot shy away from that responsibility. You have to find value in everything which is offered to them. And out of that, looking at your ecosystem, you find out what is suitable for it, what is desirable, what can be adapted, and we do that. And of course, it is not something which we should preserve or conserve, but knowledge spreads by sharing. So keep sharing good practices. And then we talk about inclusive leadership. The meaning of the term inclusive does not mean that we are only talking about children with special need or creating an environment for learning, but it is inclusion is for all. So all means all. That is the best line which could be mentioned about the inclusive leadership. So these are few processes of school leadership which I've shared with you. And this is how it looks like. Leadership should be there for understanding. Leadership is there for taking desired action, and it is there for the reflection. Only after all this will be able to take the direction which is desirable. And this is what we'll also talk about, building the culture, because of course we have to be open to changes. So I'll just the things which are there. This is my beautiful slide which I love seeing and I love sharing it with everyone. It's inhale the future and exhale the past. So this, you can understand it as a process, how the growth happens, be it the growth of the soul, the growth of mind. Ultimately, it has to always inhale the future and exhale the past. So this is there. We should think about river of life, where we can treat life to be like a river with an origin, a journey through multiple routes and ultimately merging into a sea. And then the last line we can see, the motivation and influences you come across, the hurdles you come across, the happy moments which are there along the journey, we note down. But at least try to jot down 3 key turns in the river, which could be correlated to major events in your life and how have they changed the course of your flow. Whether it led to you slowing down or speed up or thin down or whatever effect it had. This is how we should be able to, and reflection is something which we must always write. A good age-old practice where people used to talk about writing a diary is something where you are reflecting and you are writing and you can revisit it at any point of time whenever it is desirable. So that is there. And of course, I'll just talk about one more component here and then we will discuss some things. I want to come back to you to discuss and move out of this presentation as quickly as possible. So just one last point, which is talking about culture, which means shared belief and assumption. There are 3 dimensions in the culture, the norms and behavior and the artifacts, where shared beliefs and assumptions are the least visible dimensions of culture. They determine how members of your school think and feel. This is what is shared belief. Whether they share or not, but how do they feel intrinsically? That is what you have to read as a leader. Then comes the norms and behaviors from patterns that collectively model the way things are done here. We talk about system. When we are looking at it, so everybody can define, all right, this is what is the way how things are done. And how are we bringing changes in that? How do we interact with people? How do we help and guide? So all those elements which to some extent are visible, those are the norms and behaviors. And then the most visible dimensions are artifacts. They are the tangible objects which show, reflect in terms of communication, in terms of celebration, in terms of reinforcing your school culture. So this is again something which together the team has to build the culture and work, and then only will be able to correlate. So 2 essential elements of culture, of course, effective teaching and learning will help the culture of the school grow, and making it acceptable. Again, going back to the line, all means all. That is what is equity. So we need to make sure that everybody is on board, everybody feels empowered, and everybody feels that, yes, they are building the culture. So as a leader, you have to establish the sense of urgency, identifying, of course, prioritizing the needs, identifying it and establish the sense of urgency. Then only the progression will happen, because the rapid pace in which things are changing, we have observed it ourselves. And we know that there is somewhere down the line an established sense of urgency, which is desirable. Leadership for learning. Leaders know their people. So first of all, try to know your people. They know their organization. They know their communities and the context extremely well. Asking questions, as Mukta Ma'am was talking about it in the beginning. Asking right questions instead of giving correct answers. Goal directed. Key drivers of positive change and exhibit perseverance. When it comes to hallmark of leadership for learning, this is something which is practiced world over. In order to ensure that all students learn, everybody in the system has to be a co-learner, and they have to be continuously engaged in the process of learning. LFL, that is Leadership for Learning, is a multidimensional and multilateral process held together by a common goal to ensure student learning, emphasizing on what is valued rather than what is measured. So this is what is there. I will come back to my last slide afterwards, but I'm stopping to share right now. Few things. I'm sorry, Mukta ma'am, I did try to go a bit fast. You might feel so because there was something which I felt I must share. So there were a lot of things. And now story time. Can we listen to a small story to understand?
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
So some of my colleagues, maybe this is something which we are doing currently. We are engaged and we are fortunate to have the opportunity to share a lot of learning and interact with a lot of educators in the country under pedagogical leadership program, which has been launched by CBSE, and I happen to be one of the co-learners in that journey also. So one of the case studies which appeals me the most when I interact, I'm sharing it with everyone. I'll just read it out and you will be able to enjoy that journey. So Mr. Bhaskar Rao, who is a headmaster in a government secondary school in Guntur district of Andhra Pradesh. Total dramatization. All right, nothing is true, but this is how it is presented, storytelling. He observed a strange phenomena within few months of his transfer to a secondary school. A girl stopped coming to school after a few months of reaching puberty. They also did not attend class 10 standard board examination despite passing 9th standard with good marks, or having attended standard 10 after completing half the academic year or almost reaching till the end of academic year. But the moment they reached puberty, they stopped coming to school. They never appeared in the board examination also. So he found out the reason for their dropping out from the school. The parents of these girls, they got them married within a year of their daughters attaining puberty. The HM was not able to make out when these girls were married off by their parent until they stopped coming to school. So he realized his data collection happened only when after some time they stopped coming. In the meantime, they got married and they moved on and their education was stopped. He was especially pained when he saw girls studying very well and yet they stopped coming to school. So by the time he learned about it, the girls would have got married and left the village to stay with their in-laws in a different village. Even if some girls stayed in their parents' house, they started to continue coming to school after marriage. They stopped. They tried, but then they stopped for various reasons, and most popular reason which was studied was the sarcasm from the peers, or facing the peer and then the way they would talk to them or the way they would see them. That was what was troubling them. So they avoided taking part in games and sports, stopped speaking to male teachers also. Eventually, they completely stopped coming to school. Their headmaster undertook a series of steps to arrest the dropout of the girls and to ensure that they complete their secondary education. He checked the month-wise attendance of every class and found out who has been irregular to school. So the study, instead of waiting for a longer period, the monthly study started. As soon as he came to know that a girl has come of her age, he visited the parent of that girl student by going to their house along with maybe some female colleagues and other teachers also, started talking to them and convincing them that let their daughter continue schooling. He used to quote the examples of girls who got married but continued their education, passed their examination, and how well are they doing in their life. He even requested the parents to keep their daughters with them for some time till they finish their examination, and then to send them to their in-laws if the need be, take their permission or whatever, all kinds of ways and means, whatever could bring them to face their examination and at least gain a certification for themselves. He also told them the benefit of passing the examination as a gateway to get jobs, because maybe somebody will be able to empower them for life and it will make a difference. He even created a system where he said, okay, if you feel that the child need not come to school because the peers will harass, though peers were sensitized, that was one thing. But still, he said that, okay, they could stay at home. We will make sure that we are providing them the study material. So flexibility of the system. Whenever it is desirable, they would come. When it is required, the teachers would go and in a locality collect 5, 6 of such girls and give them whatever is desirable. So all kinds of practices which he tried, and eventually he was the one who was able to make the difference. And so much so that now there is a catch in the story, which says that when he was offered the promotion to move as a district education officer, he refused. And he said, no, I will not want to go, because this is something where is my calling and I'm doing it. And this requires another analysis of the case study. So what is important is, again, something which was simple, which sounded so simple that these are the measures which could have been taken, but for a person to practice them, for a person to bring them into practice and make a difference in terms of statistics and data sharing, that yes, this is what was the situation before I started practicing this, and this is what it is there now. And this is what we need to always keep on doing. So even if there is a challenging situation, you just have to think of alternative ways, and means one way does not work, second way will not work, third way will not work, but there is always going to be some way. So we need to find that way, collaborate it. We need to find that way together. Sometimes it might not strike a leader's mind that, no, I don't have the solution, but a team member comes and suggests. So listening is such a powerful attribute of a leader, where you are able to listen to that and draw essence from what you have heard, and you are able to take it forward. So these are few thoughts, and now, Mukta ma'am, I'll leave it open if there are any questions or anything. Sorry for this.
Beautifully, you have done. Thoroughly enjoyed. And the remarks which are there in the chat box, everybody is enjoying the show, to the finest, the deepest till the last millimeter. Sir, I really like the way you initiated the session. I mean, with the prayer. So I thought maybe for a second, so only हमको मन की शक्ति देना, my favorite. But then I actually felt too good. The complete 2 paragraphs, they were there in front of my eyes. And the way you have weaved, it's really good. Sir, there is a question in the chat box by Vishali Sapra. She's asking how to exhale past.
I saw that, yes. This is something which I always get a question on this when I talk about it. So let bygones be bygones. When we are talking about exhale the past, at times we spend so much of time and energy talking about it, wish I had done this, or wish this is what would have happened. What has happened has already happened. You have to let go. You have to detach yourself from that, because you cannot go back. But what was the learning from that is something you retain with yourself. So all the time, don't keep going back, be it in relationship, be it in your interactions, be it in your actions, everywhere. Somebody who always keeps referring or going back to past will not be able to move forward. So if you are looking at progression, and even it is always very rightly said that live in present, but living in present also desires planning for the future. Don't spend too much of time and energy in all the time only thinking, so that you forget the beauty and the joy of living in present. Keep living in present, but at the same time, when it is always mentioned that for a leadership role, it is important to be visionary. So when you have to be visionary, you have to somewhere see the bigger picture also. So you have to look at the future also. This is what I meant.
Yeah, if we won't exhale, we will be, giving a chance to, manufacturing or, that toxic within our body.
Too much, yes.
They will be there. Sir, I would like to ask a question. You have beautifully conveyed about the pedagogical leadership. NEP has given approximately more than 10 elements to be integrated in the curriculum, right? By transacting the lessons, like art integration, physical education, IT
and all that, yes.
Then next I take interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and cross-curricular. Then 21st century and the competency-based, whatever. Then the case-based studies and the project-based studies. When we share these things to the teachers, if there is a question, how frequently we should go for it, or have you practiced something, or you have thought of how many projects in the middle class or secondary senior secondary, or how many case-based studies to be taken up? Anything. Elements should be given a taste in every class, I believe. But
so
then
I have given a taste of that in this class itself. I can say that at the end of it, I brought the case study. Yes. So that it correlates that whatever was learning, how it can be practiced. So we need to look at it from the point of view of getting children to act on this. See, somewhere everything you cannot do. So where you have to empower, initially you have empowered. And after that, you have given them the avenues. If I talk about, like, I give you an example of one of the physics lessons, which I have shared with some of my friends. So if I talk about, let's say, the art of playing football. Now, the title is Art of Playing Football. So the movement, the rhythm, the physical exercise, the stamina, the resilience, and the physics in it, and the mathematics in it, and the presence of mind in it, and the team building together, working in collaboration. What is not there in this? A single game of football teaches us all the subjects. It teaches us language of communication, be it body language, because when they talk about the player is exhibiting a particular body language, which could be positive, which could be negative, a gesture where an opposite team members, in spite of facing a loss, the way he or she reacts to the other player, there's a lifelong lesson which has been learned. So we have to create case studies. We have to talk about it, and then you break it into fragments. You start breaking into fragments. All right, today we are going to discuss this aspect of it. Today I am going to discuss about the football shoes. And when I start discussing about football shoes, a lot of physics comes into it, where we talk about the turf, we talk about the kind of shoes which have to be desired, because what is the reason? So you can take it to any subject. You can ask them to write a poem on that and have a beautiful discussion on team spirit. So that is where language component comes. So this is what will be possible. I understand that, yes, you have to make a theme, and that theme breaks into fragments. It becomes more of a thematic study. And there is a wonderful way which our defense services, they employ in understanding the psychology of a student, which is known as thematic apperception test. Which is a picture story writing. So there is a picture which is displayed there, and then you have to write your thoughts. Whatever you are writing, from that the psychologist is able to read how you perceive situations and how are you going to react to that situation. So this is one example which I think
this is our preconceived notion that there are so many elements how we can integrate, but rather integrating these elements, they will rather make the lesson more interesting, and we will use less time. Usually,
yes, this is exactly, the time saving will be phenomenal, and you'll be able to do much more.
True.
It's just that, yes, pre-lesson planning will require investment. You have to sit, and alone you cannot. So all those people who are involved in that, they have to sit together and plan their lesson. So somebody says that, yeah, this is my perspective. And this is what has been done when we look at multiple intelligences.
Right.
So in multiple intelligence assessment, what has been done, that even if your question paper is there, a single question, what all components are there? When we talk about SDG integration, which has been beautifully done in every lesson transaction, which is happening in school. So they're able to correlate it to the goal. So when you are able to correlate it to the multiple intelligence or to the goal, you are able to cater to all that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. I believe nobody could have done justice to this topic better than you. I am overwhelmed. Just phenomenal. I mean, great, sir. Great appreciation. I'm a great fan of yours ever since I have met you. And I mean, now I'm a super fan.
I'm a fan of all those wonderful people who have written their remarks in the chat box, because that is what I'm reading now, because that's my learning.
So we want to continue, but time is not permitting us. Everything, should come to a graceful end. I'll request Kriti ma'am to kindly propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. A leader is one who passes the credit and takes the blame, and also make the team understand mistakes are an opportunity. Good evening to one and all present here. I would like to express my gratitude to all esteemed delegates of the talk show Education 4.0 for their presence and contribution to make this episode of the talk show a great success. I thank you, respected Sanjay Yadav sir, for deliberating on the topic. with your expert guidance, gave us a real insight and motivate educators to design the future path. Also, I would like to thank Dr. Mukta Mishra ma'am for providing immense support to make this talk show successful. I must thank the team Samurja and big thanks to Monica ma'am for working hard to make this talk show again another success. Thank you everyone. Namaskar.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you,
a
sir.
great pleasure, Mukta ma'am, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.